Hello, welcome to this Integrated Skills webinar. Today we're looking at the circular economy, and I'm really pleased to have Brian Main with me to discuss that today. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Stuart. Good to be here.
Nice to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. A little bit of housekeeping first before we get into the meat of today. Just to say that we have a webinar program that we've been running now for about 18 months. We've got a couple of webinars coming up in the near future. Let me just go on and show you what those are. Just a second. Webinars coming up in the future. Then the next date for your diaries, 17th of July. We've got my colleague James Baker, who's going to be talking all about RootSmart solvers. If you're a RootSmart client, that will be of interest to you. That's how you can get new routes just from scratch, how you can balance all your existing routes, and you can use the solvers to insert new properties or new developments in estates into your routes and to your service. So James will be taking us through that on the 17th of July. Some of you who've joined us before, we're alternating our sort of technical webinar presentations with a wider masterclass, of which today is one. The next masterclass is going to be on the 21st of August at 11. That's with Liz Behrens, Service Manager at Leeds City Council. And there is definitely a link in what we'll be talking about in August with Liz, with what we're talking about with Brian today. So that masterclass is on how to set up community reuse shops, which will be really interesting because I know that Leeds have just launched their second large community reuse shop in the city. I'm a user, both I've bought stuff and taken stuff to their Seacroft-based reuse shop. I like it very much. So I'm really looking forward to talking to Liz about how they set it up, how they established it, how they put their business case together, how they got to the political buy-in, how they engaged with the community to make that happen, because obviously that's a key issue and an important element that we're going to be talking about today with Brian. Today, this is really our agenda. We're going to be looking at, and Brian's going to be helping us to go through these. We've really got four areas. What is the circular economy? And this first part really is to address the science of circular economy. It's for those of us who maybe are not up to speed, have not come across circular economy before. So Brian's going to take us through really the technical aspects of that, what it means, how it works. And so by the end of that first session, then we'll all be kind of on the same page. The second area that Brian's going to be talking about is how we deliver a circular economy. And talking to Brian in preparation for this, he's been working with a number of groups who are doing some really interesting, business models, business ideas based on circular economy thinking. So I've asked Brian to go through some of those, and I think you'll be really interested. And then looking at how we deliver circular economy, and in a case study, and then we finish off with really the role of the waste manager. We'll be chatting about some of these things as we go through, but I think we're in for a really interesting day, interesting session. So Brian, I really appreciate you being with us. I wondered if we could kick off. I've got a question for you, and I've been asking all the presenters of our webinars one simple question, and it's waste management, accident or plan?
It was an accident, without doubt. I could take up the whole hour talking about it, but what happened was this was in the early 80s. I was unemployed, and the local authority was taking on labourers. So off I went and filled in the application form, and there and then, and the guy said, "Look, I'm terribly sorry. We have no vacancies at the moment, but complete that form, hand it over, and if something comes up, I'll give you a shout. In the coming weeks, months." So that'd be fantastic. So I filled in the application form and handed it to him. He said, you've got a Bachelor of Arts. I said, yes. He said, can you draw? I said, yeah, I can draw. He said, can you draw trees? I said, yeah, I can draw trees. He said, brilliant. We're going to set up this whole project. We're going to clean up the valley. This is back in Southwold. We're going to clean up the valley, and we want somebody to look at the areas where there's all fly tipping and rubbish, and we're going to remove that and do some drawings of how it could like. I said, no problem. I'm sure I can do that. He said, well, look, we're going to launch this in a couple of weeks. I'll give you a phone call. You come for the interview, but you seem like the right man to do the job. So I left there, rushed to the library, got a book on trees and practiced like anything. Fortnight later, a phone call. He said, Brian, he said, look, we've had to think about this. Would you be interested in running the program? I said, I don't know, I'll have a go. And he said, right, okay, well, come along for the interview. He said, don't get it, you can go for the tree drawing job. I said, okay, great. So I went there and I set up then. So I was the first one. I had 80 staff, and it was called the Rumney Valley Cleanup Campaign. And I've just got something to show you. So as part of that job, this was the Waste and Recycling Directory, written in 1984, 36 years ago, and you can still see my name there. And one of the projects was we ran a campaign, education campaign, and this was I don't know what this is actually. I use this as a coaster, but this is a kids campaign. I'm a litter buster, and it's Keep Rumney Valley Tidy.
Great.
That's how I got involved.
Brilliant. And well, I've got a similar story which we haven't got time for either, but that's really good. I wondered if you could sort of introduce us to a little bit about how you got involved in circular economy. Just to perhaps just give us a kind of a quick portrait of your journey through waste management. So you started off in local government, and then you kind of after a period of time moved into consultancy. And then how did you get into circular economy, and what sort of interests you about that?
Well, I guess my whole role into from local government was the sort of head of waste operations when I left to get into consultancy, and as part of the local authority role is very much into sustainability, to be quite honest. So a key element, sustainability, social, economic and environmental elements. The lead on to the circular economy was just a natural progression, to be quite honest. And in my final role before I left last year, consultancy, I spent most of my time supporting new initiatives develop their business ideas, mainly up in Scotland and some in Wales. And so, assisting businesses through marketing, through developing business plans. And I was fortunate enough in my time in local government to have a role in promoting waste awareness, promoting recycling. So I did some postgraduate qualifications in communications, business development. So all of those things came together that I was ideally suited really to provide that type of support.
And now you've kind of moved into writing, and we see prolific writer now of articles, and particularly on circular economy stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to. So I've done my recent stuff is I spent the 3 or 4 months lecturing in Cardiff University on the circular economy, specifically to engineering students. How the circular economy can change construction, how it is changing construction, the type of new jobs. So I had a good time in Cardiff University with both MSc and BSc students. Lecturing on the circular economy. Great. And I did some stuff recently for Swansea and Aberystwyth University on bioinnovation and circular economy. So I did a lecture there and specifically on an area that particularly interests me is circular procurement. Great.
We're looking forward to hearing your lecture to us. Just for the first few slides, just to really bring us all up to speed on okay. For those of us who've not come across it before, but what is the circular economy and what does it mean? So I'll just open up the slide deck and I'll hand over to you, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So basically, we have a system that we operate, which is make, take, and dispose, which is we identify as the linear economy. Very much how we started is Stuart, in waste management, where basically the lift, shift, and bin it approach. So we're moving away from that to keep things in circulation a lot longer. So the sort of in terms of the development of circular economy, it's been around like recycling as forever and a day. However, certain elements sort of in academia identified after the Second World War, for example, biomimicry, which popularized in this century very much so. Interesting, really interesting to look at that principle and philosophy. And basically what that says is that we can find solution to all our human challenges by emulating nature's patterns and strategies. So well worth actually looking at. Then we have Cradle to Cradle. I think that was by a German guy, an American guy. And that's basically a design philosophy that considers all materials in various processes to be either biological or technical. So all of these philosophies, developments, all brought together, and very much through Dame Ellen MacArthur, who in the solo long distance yachtswoman, who in 2010 established the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And basically from that, using this what's called butterfly diagram, it explains the circular economy in detail so that we can understand it in terms of biological and technical. So if you go to the biological element, for example, and you look at collection there, and you see these cascades. What that means basically, so you buy a pair of jeans, that could be turned into furniture stuffing, then turned into insulation material, and then go out into that wider circle in terms of, where you can extract biochemicals, or you can digest it through an anaerobic digester. Then that digested can go back to land as a fertilizer used into farming. And then there's that whole circular element then that you're growing plants, and it goes through that process. Whereas on the other side then, look in terms of the technical elements, and you can see all of those parts there, from recycling, which is the outer circle. And what we want to do really within a circular economy is make that circle as small as possible. So you got recycling on the outside, you're coming into refurbishment, reuse, and then basically maintaining a product so that it has that tight circle. And that butterfly diagram there explains really the circular economy in a lot more detail. But what it's about, quite simply, is making sure that material stuff stays in circulation as long as it possibly can, without it ending up being burnt or worse, landfilled. So in a bit more detail then, in order to deliver that, it's not that straightforward. Obviously, it needs a financial support to change from the make, take, disposal into a circular economy. It needs new skills, talking about upgrading skills so that we can repair, reuse. We need to ensure that products are designed in a way that they can be disassembled and reused. We need to change consumer behavior. We've only just seen, huge queues outside of Primark. Can we change that attitude to a more circular system where products are reused, repaired, remanufactured, rather than just continuously bought using virgin materials? In order to do that, when we look at the Welsh approach to this, we need a range of government action, both international, European, and we've seen, in terms of Europe, the Circular Economy Action Plan. We've seen circular economy packages. We've seen a whole raft of legislation and regulations coming from Europe, transposed within the UK. And that includes, how we manage waste, how we provide training, how we look at design itself, where the research and development comes from, and the finance. And then we need to, at the end of all this, ensure that we have policies that allow the markets to develop so that we can take advantage of this circular economy, and businesses and government can do that. And the big things are the benefits are massive, Stuart, absolutely massive. I've just pick you one. You can find huge details about this. This is the scale of the opportunity offered by a shift towards the circular economy is significant. So this is a report commissioned by Veolia, undertaken by Imperial College. They estimate that the value of a full circular economy could be £2.9 billion per year for the UK GDP and create around 175,000 jobs. Massive opportunities. And, in terms of now the pandemic, the issues surrounding employment, this gives us an opportunity to deliver, and it'll make us more competitive. And one of the big things here, it'll make us more resilient. And by gosh, we need to do that in terms of developing our economy local. So huge opportunities, huge benefits that we will have as a result of delivering this service. And how will we develop it? Well, we need to develop new policies. We need to engage stakeholders. We need to drive markets. And that's something we can all do as consumers. We need to look at how we change and operate our businesses. And we're going to specifically look at that. And engaging technology and innovation in terms of, things like artificial intelligence, in terms of predictive maintenance, for example, ensuring that we can make our products, our vehicles last longer. And using data will be a key element of this, and through collaboration and partnerships, whether at the local or international level. And my final comment on the circular economy, I guess, is that we have sustainability, which minimizes impact, and the circular economy, which maximizes opportunity. So a potted history of circular economy, and in terms of the major developments it can provide.
Interesting. Thanks, Brian. That's really great. A great introduction to it. I'm sure with many attend conferences and exhibitions, and part of the reason for sort of looking at this with you is that circular economy has been a staple on conference agendas for a number of years now. And my question really is, okay, so what's changed? What has changed? I mean, both of us have had experience of sustainability, sustainable development, and how that was kind of the expectation that would be brought about by recycling, local authority recycling in the main. But in terms of circular economy, there's been loads and loads of hours spent talking and listening. And I'm really interested in actually hearing from you on the kind of the practicalities of actually, okay, what has changed? What's now happening that wasn't happening before the conversation started? So, I mean, you've mentioned previously to me about some of the interesting businesses that you've actually seen. So, I mean, I wonder if you'd just take us through some of those and show us a little bit about actually what has happened.
Yeah, I mean, what the world is pre-COVID, the world has changed, and circular economy is certainly in how business is developing. And we as consumers actually procure things. I mean, 4 examples. Alibaba, the most valuable retailer, no inventory. Yep. Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. Facebook, the world's most popular media owner, creates no content. And Uber, the world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Completely different mindset and how businesses operate, and how we as consumers and the choices we have. So a whole change, and we need to think differently. And my way is of thinking differently, which we spoke about earlier, is the electric drill. My electric drill example, Stuart, is that I don't know if you know, but someone, and I love this type of research because I just wonder who does it and why they come up with it. Somebody came up with research that we use an electric drill in all its lifetime for about 12 or 13 minutes. Now, if we ask...
Is that right?
Yeah, it is, 12 or 13 minutes for the whole lifetime. We go back drill, 12 or 30 minutes. So one of the things that I often do is to explain this change, to this different thinking, is to ask the audience, everyone listening here, do they have a drill? And normally you get about 80%, perhaps 90% will all put their hand up and say, yes. Do you own a drill, out of the interest?
I do own a drill. Yeah.
Yeah. So we all. I own a drill. This is my drill here. I hadn't realised, but I'll try it. It's got a light.
Oh, nice.
So
nice,
I'm a serious drill user. I can drill in the dark, Stuart.
Yeah, brilliant.
I can turn all the lights off and I can drill away merrily. I hadn't realised that because I haven't used it that light. But so basically, we all have these. Yeah, we use them 12, 13s. There's 80%, 90% of the audience. When was the last time we used it? Oh, I don't know, 3 months ago. I haven't used this for ages, to be quite honest. I didn't know that the battery still worked. And what do I need? I don't need this, do I really? What is it that I actually need? I need a hole in the wall. I need a hole in the wall. So why can't you and I, or a local group of people, all have one drill? If we have that one drill, well, we can make sure that manufactured, it lasts longer, it can get repaired, we can reuse it, and all that effort that goes into making if there's 100 people here, those 80 drills can go into making about 10, 20. And we'll end up with what we want, which is a hole in the wall. Great. So it's about that change of thinking. It's that different mindset that we need to take on board, and that's that's why I think the circular economy is so exciting, because there are so many things you can do.
Yes, I asked you if you could give us some examples of some of those kind of innovations that you've seen. So if
So basically, did I just go back to that other one? So this is 5 different circular business models. That is another way of looking at the business models, and that's called Resolve, and that's developed by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which gives you, each one means what? So regenerate, share, optimize, loop, virtualize, and exchange. But I'm going for this 5, which is being developed by Accenture. And so I'm looking at circular supply chain, resource recovery and recycling, product life extension, sharing platforms, and product as a service. So you can look at more detail of what these actually are when the slide are provided. So let's look at circular supply chain. So we've got 3 examples here. We've got Industrial Nature. So they produce hemp construction blocks, looking at hemp, which allows them to utilize material that is better environmentally, more energy efficient, and importantly, when it's finalized, used, it can be compost, for example, or used again. Argent Energy, I should say Industrial Nature, based up in Scotland. Indie Nature, you can Google them out. Argent Energy, converting waste fuels into biodiesel. I just read this morning John Lewis changing all the HGVs to biodiesel. Another example here in circular supply chain, Aurora Sustainability. Now, I met the 2 people who organize Aurora Sustainability, really fascinating people, do a lot of work with Aberdeen University. So what they do, believe it or not, is that they grow mushrooms from coffee grounds. So it collect coffee grounds around there from coffee shops throughout the Aberdeen area, and then they grow mushrooms. They've taken that a step further then as well. They provide training to potential mushroom growers using that same system, and they also have developed the concept that they sell their mushrooms, and you buy a pack or a box, you get some mushrooms and you get a recipe, and you get guidance on growing mushrooms yourself.
I like it. Yeah.
And there's another. This is my one joke, Stuart. You get another bunch of fun guys operating. I know it's dreadful, but I've been trying to say that. A project we're worth looking at is up in Newcastle YMCA. They work with a whole range of a group of individuals, supporting them in training through the development of a mushroom growing scheme there. So where they set up a local collection scheme for coffee grounds. They use disused land where they put up photo cabins to grow their mushrooms. Absolutely fantastic. And then they sell them back into the community as well. So, new initiatives, they're looking at different materials, for example. Next one we look at here is resource recovery. So McReba, this is a guy called, I believe, Joe McCartney, once again based up in Scotland. They've just won or delivering a 1.6 million pound contract in Cumbria using plastics in roads. And I got to tell you, this idea came up. Well, I'm not saying that this is advocating this is an approach, but this is what gave him this entrepreneur idea, is that he's taken some time out in southern India, and he noticed that some local people, how they were filling potholes. Now they're filling it is getting waste plastic, ramming it into a hole in the ground, chucking some diesel and setting fire to it, and that would fill the pothole. Now, I'm not advocating that as an approach, far from it, but that was the idea that gave him the idea of using plastics in road and road construction. That's taken off. This one I love is the Arbiki estate, and they produce vodka and gin from the potatoes that they grow on their farm, and they must have one of the best marketing campaigns ever, Stu. And please forgive me for reading this quote, but this is for their gin, which is great. So 5 o'clock tonight, if you pour yourself a gin, I suggest you use Nada gin, because it harnesses the power of nature and science to create this world first spirit with a carbon footprint of minus 1.54 kilograms of CO2 per 700 milliliter bottle. Nada Gin is at the forefront of fighting climate change and biodiversity loss, the biggest challenges humankind has ever faced. So whoever thought you could have a glass of gin that would be tackling climate change?
Fantastic. So, can we say, Brian, that we'll put the link into the company there in the notes for all the attendees.
Yeah. So you can have a glass of gin and think, well, I'm doing my bit for the environment. Yeah, then you got another company, Deepdale Hire, using recycled glass. You got some others. Then you got Circle Logic for any golfers out there, not one myself. But basically, this is a concept. But product life extension is that when you're finished with your golf clubs, your golf bag, they're kept, they're potentially remanufactured, repaired if need be, and reused, and then redistributed. A Welsh-based company, I had to get one in there, Ministry of Furniture. They are the old Remploy, so they reuse, remanufacture material and design offices, furniture from offices. They did a fantastic project with Swansea City Council using scaffolding planks as part of their kitchen area of their new office. Great concept. Green Steam Carpets, yet another Welsh company based up in Porth in the Rhondda Valley. They utilize carpets. And if you think about carpets, the footfall takes place in specific areas, in offices, in factories, in shops. And therefore, by using reused tiles, or when they lift them up and they remanufacture them, just instead of recarpeting the whole area, just that specific area business that they've set up there. We've got Olio, the food recycling app. So basically on the system that if I have excess food, that I can put it, I take a photograph, put it on my app. Someone locally can say, oh, that's great, I'll utilize that, taken up by restaurants, cafes, for example. Great way of ensuring that surplus food doesn't get landfilled or and is kept in circulation. This is a tool library set up everywhere. For example, like our drill, like a whole range of other tools that instead of procuring themselves, like any library, you go along to your library, become a member of it, you pick up tools, huge range of tool libraries throughout the UK. Machinery rings, they've been going since after the Second World War. There's about 9 in Scotland, some in England and Wales. So this is where farmers can, instead of buying really expensive kit, the machinery ring holds that. You pay a fee to be a member of the machinery ring. Also has labor there that you can move labor around when you require it. You can use their machinery. So, instead of buying this expensive kit, you can just use it from machinery ring itself. And then products as a service. This one is really interesting for me. So you've got Ripe Office, you got Egg Lighting, you got Dresso, companies here that lease. So you don't buy a carpet, you lease a carpet. You don't buy your bulbs, you lease the lighting. So you lease your office furniture. So basically, that when you, for example, if your chair, you lease your chair, when it needs replacing, they replace it. So it's built for long lasting. It's built for being robust. It's, instead of continuously replacing something, these organizations will replace it for you. So you're buying as a product. You're not buying the chair. You're not buying your carpet. You're not buying your light bulbs. You're buying your light. You're buying you're buying light as the service. So what you want is a quality of light. You want quality of chair, and you want a quality of office furniture. A huge range of companies involved in these types of service. So completely different business services that we've had before that we as consumers can take advantage of.
Great. That's comprehensive, Brian. Thank you. So we've had a look at the sort of science behind circular economy. We've looked at some really practical examples. The next part of this webinar is actually if you're not already as fed up of quizzes, I thought we'd actually have a bit of a quiz. Here's a quiz question for you. I wondered if you could all do me a favor and actually have a stab at the answer to this. Which UK nation is number 1 in the UK, number 2 in Europe, and number 3 in the world for household waste recycling? Any thoughts, anyone? Well, there's certainly a pattern emerging. Are we all finished with our votes? Okay, let's just show those. Can you see that, Brian?
Yes, yep.
Fairly conclusive. I think the answer is Wales.
Indeed. So I brought my. I was going to have a big flag, but I've got my. So I've got my Wales supporters flag here. I would go that way, and bilingually that way, which would have been supporting.
I like it.
Wales football team.
I like it. Can I? I mean, obviously, we're going to talk a bit about Wales and what Wales have been doing on circular economy. But if we just take the British Olympic team and its success at the London Olympics, for example, the key issue there is actually about preparation. It's about understanding that actually the British Olympic team didn't just win; they all turned up. There's a massive amount of kind of preparation, resourcing, training, thinking about and planning to actually put the British team in that sort of position. So really my introduction really is to say, okay, Wales is clearly doing something right. What have they done right and how have they done it? So I wondered if you kind of go through some of those issues for us.
Yeah, right. So I think I think the key element of this is that, and I'll talk to the slides, is that since devolution, we've had some major political environment ministers who saw the waste management is a key element of delivering sustainability. It goes back right from the early minister, a lady called Sue Essex. We've had Jane Richardson, we've had John Griffiths, we had the ex-First Minister Carwyn Jones, we've now got Hannah Blethyn and Julie James, a whole range of dedicated politicians wanting to deliver in terms of sustainability, and so waste management is a key element of that. And I'd also like to say, we've got offices like a guy called Andy Rees, who many of you might well know, who's been at the heart of this and for a number of years, and he's joined by other officers, David Blair, David Warren, these guys who are committed to delivery. But at the heart of it all, is sustainability, Stuart. In Wales, if we make a decision on health, if we make a decision on education, if we make a decision on planning, sustainability is a key policy area. And we're one of there's only about 3 or 4 countries in the whole world that has sustainability at its core. And whatever I say, we need to recognize that it's the fundamental principle that it runs throughout all decision making, to be quite honest. And in line with that, in 2015, we got this well-being of future generations in place, which puts this sustainable development principle as a duty, as a legal duty. So any local authority that's putting forward some policy has to say how it will fit within the well-being of future generations. And taking that theme onwards, then we've had a number of waste strategies, and which culminated recently towards zero waste, and now we're looking at it again in what's called Beyond Recycling, which is our circular economy strategy, which looks at the key themes. Is that we want to build on a recycling record, as you quite rightly point out. First in the UK, it's around about 63% now. It's a 64% target for this year. It's a 70% for 25. We want to drive innovation and material use. We want to get our communities, we want to get our businesses involved, and we want to support businesses and social enterprises, prevent and reuse waste, and we want to investigate in infrastructure, which they've been doing incredibly. And government is using those political levers through legislation to support both local authority and businesses deliver the circular economy. And if you look at the record here, okay, we've got the 63% recycling rate, but one of the key elements there is that £750 million invested in waste management, in infrastructure, over 90%, around 95% of all households in Wales as a food waste collection service. One of the key elements we can do that is that Welsh Government invested in anaerobic digestion facilities throughout Wales. So we've got about half a dozen. I was involved, luckily enough to be involved in the procurement of one in South Wales, in Rhondda, and the other up in Denbighshire in North Wales, both 20,000 tonne plants. So we've got that in key with the collections. And another element is that Welsh Government saw and realised the importance of waste management in delivering sustainability. So they provided funding to local authorities to develop collection services. So, English waste management officers would bite your hand off to have this opportunity, saying, here's money, the Director of Social Services can't touch it, you have to spend it on establishing a recycling services collection. So you have the collection, you have that infrastructure on the other hand, in terms that if you collect this, you can be turned into something which generates a market in its own right. And it's not just within local authorities. You can see there that we have 6.5 million circular economy fund. I know up in Scotland, they've been extremely active in supporting, and you can see that by the businesses that I identified in supporting businesses develop the circular economy. In Wales, that 6.5 million fund is for businesses, it's for local authorities, it's for social social enterprises, recognizing their value. And then you can see the environmental impact that has been, the successes of those types of policies that have been delivered in Wales. And it's all part of this process. So at the moment, we're looking at beyond recycling. So we want to be a world leader in recycling. We want to phase out single plastics. We want to avoid food waste. We want to prioritize the use of wood and recyclables. We want to help educate communities and deliver businesses to support circular economy. And we have a timeline to achieve our 2050 target, which is really positive. So I'm looking forward to the outputs of the new circular economy strategy. There have been events throughout the whole of Wales. They've encouraged everyone to participate. It's a high level. The next stage is to get some actions out of it, to put some actual meat on the bones. But these are exciting times in Wales regarding the circular economy.
That's great.
Full credit to the Welsh Government, I have to admit.
That's really, really interesting. And there's been an awful lot of work, gone into that impressive performance, hasn't there?
There has, I mean, the one thing I didn't mention is that, in England, we're looking at consistency. In Wales, there's a document called the Collections Blueprint, which encourages local authorities to collect materials in a specific way, and there's support both in financial and advisory support to assist local authorities. So there's a great deal of support being provided centrally from Welsh Government.
Interesting. I want to ask you about the role of the local authority waste manager, because both of us have worked in that role in the past, and usually there's masses to do, and one of the reasons we've kind of developed this webinar series is because lots of our clients are under real pressure just to deliver services. So it's kind of heads down, what do I need to do to actually deliver this week, this fortnight service, etc. And it's high pressure stuff. And one of the points is to sort of give local authority waste managers an opportunity to sort of lift their heads up and say, okay, what is going on then, in the wider picture. So my question to you really then is to look at what in terms of the circular economy, does that mean for the local authority waste manager that's different from just maybe the person who's responsible for shifting X tons of material A, B, and C from points X to Y, almost agnostic about what they're doing. So, I mean, what does that mean for? What does circular economy mean, and how might it change the role or the expectations of the role of the local authority waste manager?
Yeah, I think this is what excited me about having this chat with you, Stuart, to be quite honest, because I'm always wary about what it is that we can actually do. Local authorities signing climate change emergency resolutions, I'm very keen on, but what does it actually mean? So what does a circular economy mean to a waste manager, and what is their roles they can play? I mean, when I joined the waste management, I think this is my last prop, is that that was the sadly the toy that I bought for my eldest child that summed it up, and thank goodness long gone are those days. But there are a number of ways that waste managers can be involved in a circular economy, and for me, they also, for one thing, they're one of the key cornerstones of it. I mean, in terms of the EU Circular Economy Action Plan, waste management is seen as one of the 5 main areas of action, for example. So it gives you an understanding that there's a significant role. But one thing that we need always to be mindful, it isn't just around about waste. There are a whole range of other activities that need to be considered, and in terms of economic development, and so it's collaboration with waste managers, with other professions we need to always be mindful of.
Yeah, that's good.
But I do think, yeah, there are specific areas that a waste manager can be involved in, and I think if we look at some slides that put together as a result of this. So we looked at
Sorry.
yeah, I think shooting ahead there, aren't we? Here we are.
Sorry, there we are.
There we go. So what is your role in circular economy? Well, waste manager is a buyer of materials, a buyer of products, a user of facilities, user of vehicles, a collector of feedstock, and importantly, capable of raising awareness. So if we look at some of these things, is that in terms of circular procurement. I delivered a range of lectures on circular procurement, and for the NHS, for example, for housing associations, where I've delivered contracts, and one of the key elements there is that often we need to develop the market, and procurement, green procurement, circular procurement, sustainable procurement can play a role in that. And to give you an example is that I worked with a housing association in Scotland, and they procured a number of kitchen units. So they go in and they replace the kitchen units of their housing stock on a regular frequency. So one of the things you can look at is that, does it need to be procured in the first place? And you see there's a sort of a procurement hierarchy, is that in terms of them, do they, because they've always changed them on a certain cycle, do they really need to change them? So the other thing then, we said, well, what about the market? What about the products that you're procuring? Can they be, can they use reused? Can they be remanufactured? So what we did there, and before we started the procurement at all, we got together manufacturers, various manufacturers of kitchen units, and held a workshop and said, well, okay, we'd like to procure reused, remanufactured items. Can you do this? How could we do this? So we then started talking to them about how we could sort of evolve the market, and then develop a contract that would satisfy all of the requests that the housing association had made, but identify whether or not the market was capable of delivering that. So, that market involvement pre-procurement, which you can undertake, is a key element. I mean, I've just been involved in a project in South Wales, where they're looking at absorbent hygiene products and looking at a waste infrastructure. So in the first thing, we went out to industry to see what is available there in the first instance, to look at the technologies available, how they can recycle the HPs into the cellulose fraction, the plastics fraction, and to see how that procurement could be delivered. So circular procurement, a key element that any waste manager can do. So, we all buy PPE. Could it be provided as a service rather than actually buying the kit and then disposing of it later? No. Facilities, could you collaborate in terms of depots, in terms of equipment, looking at the tool libraries, machinery rings, for example, sharing with local authorities. And there's been an awful lot of work done throughout the UK of local authorities collaborating, and really successful both on procurement and delivering services. So is there an opportunity there and of doing that to utilize resources better? In terms of vehicles, we talked about predictive maintenance, using AI to do that. Can the vehicles be used more productively? Can we reduce their footprint? Can the number of vehicles that you use, can you achieve the same with less, to be quite honest? What about the use of alternative fuel technologies like diesel or electric? These considerations, a number of ways that a waste manager can deliver. And of course, a key element of this is collecting clean materials that can be utilized and recycled. Where is the role then of waste managers in delivering reuse? I mean, it's fantastic success of reuse shops on HWRCs. Unbelievable things that local authorities have been doing, and specifically in partnership with the social enterprises. Are there new materials that local authorities can collect at HWRCs to assist evolving markets? Then there's the utilization of materials themselves, in terms of the green waste that is composted being utilized in their own parks. And we're seeing, that's been done for a number of years. Can the equipment that they use be refurbished and be reused elsewhere? Can we use recycled stuff rather than reuse? So I see a whole range of opportunities that waste managers can actually utilize and be part of in delivering a circular economy. And of course, local authorities, fantastic capability, even though they've lost a huge number of staff in this specific area of marketing and in terms of awareness raising, not only to the public but internally as well. And then when they're procuring, do they, in terms of the sustainability, the social element, do they know the life cycle of the material streams? Do they know where the waste is going? Do they know what the end process is doing? Are they taking into opportunities, the social conditions, the people that they're sending materials to, or that they're procuring their materials from? So a number of areas that waste management can actually be involved in and actually take part and participate, because they really are a key element in delivering a circular economy, in my opinion, and doing a good job, especially.
I mean, that sounds, just thinking about those sort of roles, if you like, new roles that we've just added into the role of the waste manager. For authorities, there's certainly a significant kind of responsibility to properly resource that. There's a massive amount there, and we're asking people to do an awful lot that does need resourcing, and funding needs to be made available for that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, a few years ago, I was one of the co-authors of a report on waste management and austerity for the CIWM, and sometimes you think of the ingenuity, to be quite honest, of local authority officers in addressing some of the concerns is just mind-blowing, and you only have to look, I think, at the reaction of local government in this pandemic of COVID-19 and how they've reacted to that. Look,
incredible.
Absolutely incredible. So it shows, innovation, initiative, their creativity. They have those skills. They undoubtedly, circular economy can be a piece of cake for them, surely.
Great, Brian. Listen, thank you so much for that. That's been really, really helpful. We've got a couple of comments. Someone's already picked up on the example that you've just mentioned there about the COVID-19 and the response to of authorities actually sharing resources and making those sort of projects happen with no notice at all. So that's been addressed. The other comment, which is actually, let me just put the question. If I just click, we can see this one. I think it's just a really interesting one in that.
Yeah, I do as well.
There's all sorts of weights and balances in the whole thing of circular economy. And Elizabeth sort of commented about the challenges of Uber and Airbnb. So I mean, you've obviously must have thought about those. All that balance. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, very much. This is an excellent comment, to be quite honest. So, in my defence, first of all, I was using Uber and Airbnb and all the other examples as a different way of thinking, a different business model. And you're quite right. But circular economy, can I say, is based on sustainability. So it is all about the social elements as well, and it's about delivering fairness. And if you go back to looking at how Wales, and you look at Europe, and a key element is ensuring that the social elements, so that equality is represented. That it's not about, for one thing, it's not about dumping our rubbish in places where we shouldn't be. It's about utilizing that, and it's about providing skills, and it's about providing, helping lift all sectors of the community in equally and fairly. So the circular economy, I would say, provides many social benefits, and I certainly wouldn't be a supporter of it if it didn't, to be quite honest. And in reading some of the documents about circular economy and building up various developing economies, is a great example, to be quite honest, a really valid point. But let's not forget, it's circular economy is built on sustainability, so built on sound social, economic, and environmental foundations. A really good comment.
Great, thank you. Brian, this hour's gone really quickly, and but really enjoyable, and really I've enjoyed talking with you, and it's been really nice to catch up after a number of years since we last worked together. So can I just say thanks very much for your time? It's been really good and really enjoyable. Hopefully, lots of food for thought in there. We'll make this recording available to all of the attendees. We've got the notes and the slides, which will be circulating as well. Don't forget to check into the next webinars. We've got a couple of webinars coming up. Thank you very much all for attending. Really appreciate your time. Brian, thank you. It's been great, and really appreciate your time. And we'll see you again all soon. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Cheerio all. Bye-bye.